Okay, so hello everybody. Let me just get this straight so you can see the entire screen. So today we're gonna discuss about preparing your concessions for your negotiation table. We have been looking at the preparation part of the negotiation, and this is really important because this will reflect all the numbers that we're going to talk about during the entire course. Numbers are important, actually are the most important thing through all negotiations. In cases in which you have negotiations that you can't quantify that clearly, try to make sure to change that into quantified numbers. For example, if you would like to quantify water, you can't just quantify water, but try to change it into bottles of water, for example. No timing. Try to change it into hours, labor days. Always try to find some way to quantify everything you have. So for preparing concessions, we're going to go through quick concepts that you will use in this week for your activities. Your first activity is actually preparing for a real negotiation. It's the oil company negotiation. You're going to go through it after this, but this is really important just to start up. So the key concepts is going to be aspiration point, target point, resistance point, your BATNA, and your bargaining range. These three main concepts, aspiration, target, and resistance, are the key concepts of this whole chapter. And for the whole or for your entire negotiations, these are the key concepts you're going to use through the entire negotiation. First of all, your aspiration point. Let's talk about this aspiration point as your Santa Claus letter. That's what you would like to have. You definitely would like to have a lot through the negotiation. It's not where you're gonna end up, or at least it's not what you think the negotiation is gonna end up, but still, you have high aspirations for every negotiation, or at least I hope you have high aspirations for every negotiation. So this aspiration point is, let's say, the higher point or the higher score for your negotiation. Now the target point, and if you go through here, you have these presentations on your platform, so you can go through it after this video. So if you go to the target point, is the buyer preferred price. It's where you actually think the negotiations are gonna conclude. You think this is the optimal goal. It's the objective goal, or is the at least you think this is gonna be where you're gonna end up. So this is, remember, aspiration is your Santa Claus letter. It's really high. You would love to have it. Target point is where you are planning to end up for a good negotiation. And the last key point is the resistance point. And the resistance point, as it says here, is the negotiator's bottom line. Meaning it's your last offer. So less than this point, you're gonna walk away from that negotiation. Your resistance point is your last or bottom line offer. So if you think on this, on let's say which one is higher or not, you will have to think on if you're the buyer or not. But let's say aspirations, Santa Claus is the highest point. Target point is where you objectively think the negotiation is gonna end up, and your resistance point is the very, very, very last point. It's the last offer. It's the less you're gonna give in that negotiation. How are you gonna actually value this resistance point? Well, it would be regarding to your BATNA, which is the next key point, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And be careful with this one, because most of the time you confuse the best alternative to a negotiated agreement with a really best alternative for that negotiation. But actually, the BATNA is your plan B. So let's say you're negotiating with a vendor. You have a good offer from that vendor, but even before going into that negotiation table, you should go with your B plan. You should go to another vendor. Which one is the next best option? Because if you're negotiating right here with this vendor, it's because you really think this is the best vendor for you. But still, you need to have a plan B. What if this negotiation table it's jeopardized, you don't get into anywhere with this vendor, and you have to go to your next best option. That'll be your BADNA, the next vendor. Maybe here you are negotiating sugar. You want sugar on your product. But your plan B is not sugar, it's just fruit. So this is going to be your BADNA. And depending on how much your BADNA is valued, there's what your resistance point it's going to be actually, or it's going to be actually evaluated. So let's say your BADNA or your next vendor, it's offering you a contract for $100, and that's okay, it's $100. But your resistance point in this negotiation in particular is not going to be, or it's not going to go further of $99. Why? Because if I go into $100, why negotiating with this vendor if I have my plan B at $100? So you're getting it? Actually, the BADNA is the key concept to value all of my other target point, resistance point, and aspiration point of my negotiation. Now, what about the bargaining range? The bargaining range is actually the zone in which you actually have a negotiation range in the table. Here it says the spread between both resistance points is the space in which most of the negotiation will take place. And you will learn or understand better in this one. So it says here, we go back, bargaining range, the spread between both resistance points. Let's go through here. You see, here is the seller resistance point and here is the buyer resistance point. So this space right here, the circle right here, it's going to be the bargaining range. Why? Because all the negotiation is going to end up right here. It's not going to end up right here, because if this is the buyer resistance point, that means the buyer is not going further through my starting point or my aspiration point as a seller. And the same happened in this part of the negotiation. So just think the bargaining range as the zone in which the negotiation is going to end up. And in this manner, let's go into the next one. You have positive bargaining ranges or negative bargaining ranges. The positive ones are something like this, in which actually our resistance points interlock. We do have a bargaining range. We do have a negotiation zone in which the value actually, or we both get value in the same range. But what happens if this is actually not the truth in the negotiation? What happens if my resistance point is actually higher than your resistance point as a buyer? We don't have any interlocking goals here. You see, we have a blank space there. This is a negative bargaining range. How are we gonna overcome this blocking? Because we can be stuck in here forever, not finding a mutual win-win solution here. So what's going to happen here is you have two choices. The first alternative is just talk about what is happening, go back each one to our corners, and rebuild both goals. You have to rebuild your whole strategy. You have to rebuild or resettle your resistance point, your target point, just finding out or that in this first plan you didn't have a mutual interlocking goal, so you will have to move your resistance point further or less one. And the second alternative that you have in this case, in the case of a negative bargaining range, is just walk away from that negotiation table. You're not gonna get into anywhere, so why wasting resources in that negotiation if you see you're not getting anywhere? It's like, I don't know if you have seen the pawn shop in History Channel. When somebody came with a very high offer that it's just too far from what the vendor is actually thinking, they don't even bother in putting an offer in the table. They just say, okay, you're too far from me, we're not gonna get anywhere, bye-bye, I hope I'll see you later. And that's it. They don't even get into a negotiation. So I guess this would be a bad situation for a negotiation, but this would also be a bad preparation for a negotiation. Because if you really know your counterpart and if you really know your BATNA and your own alternatives, I really think this is not gonna happen too often. But if it does, just walk away from that table or resettle your goals. So I hope this is clear. If not, please feel free to ask me any questions. This is the trickiest part of the entire course because it's numbers. So let's go through the presentation. And this is the bargaining mix. Everything on the negotiation or every part of the contract or of the final deal, it's part of the bargaining mix. It means, for example, if you're selling a car, it's the price, kilometers, the color, the brand of the car, the year it was made. All of those features or variables that you can find in the negotiations are part of the bargaining mix. I just put here some examples: the amount of resources, sales goals, closing date, price. So everything that is on the agreement. And for each one of this, you will have to settle let's go through here, a resistance point, a target point, or an aspiration. Let's say you're selling a car. Let's say you're looking for a brand new car. So a brand new car for you, it will be, okay, my first choice would be going into the concessionaire of that brand that I'm looking for. That will be my aspiration. What if it's too high for my budget? Well, my target point, let's say, would be going to a concessionaire or actually the store of that cars in particular, the store of that brand, and I will ask not for a new car. Let's say I will ask for a used car, but with the backup of the concessionaire of that brand in particular. And my resistance point, if this is still too far, well, I will go to a personal sales person to get the car. That would be my resistance point in terms of kilometers. So you see, we are trying to put values or specific terms on each one of the variables. Let's say the price, my aspiration price would be to pay let's say 10 pesos for the car. That's my aspiration. My target point, I already have seen the blue book, I already compare with other cars, so I'm expecting a negotiation to end up in 12 pesos. And my resistance point would be I will not pay more than 15. Why? Because I have another car from a friend, let's say, that it's gonna be sold in 16 pesos. So why paying more than 15 if I have another choice, my BATNA and 16? Okay, so you're getting it there. And just to finish this video and this explanation, because I just have a couple of minutes here, I will go to this last slide in which I talk about the truth about concessions. Value of concessions is fixed by the other party. Why am I saying that? Because the value is fixed by your counterpart. Even though I value a lot that my car has this sound system that I buy for 5,000 pesos, it doesn't matter to my counterpart, because my counterpart is not looking for a sound system. He's looking for a car to go to school. So everything I put in my budget into that sound system actually is not worth it in this negotiation in particular. That's why I said it's fixed by the other person. Give concessions that have minimal costs for us. Will always have your concessions valued and countable. Remember, it's all about numbers. Fix each offer about your target point. Well, get higher aspirations so you can actually negotiate the price. Higher target points get better results. Yes, that's true. More power, more alternatives. That means if you have a pretty strong BATNA, you will have more alternatives and more power to negotiate in this particular table. So, well, I hope you understood. Please ask anything you can, anything you want. Go through the forum. I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.